Hello, everyone. So happy, so glad to welcome you back to Mary's Little House by way of YouTube. I took a long time to prepare, and Peanut's already asleep on my lap. He's having a rough time with the weather. Today we're getting a little reprieve. It's 82 degrees outside, but it's 83 in here with in the house with our air conditioning going. I don't know what's wrong. It's just so sweaty. But anyway, Peanut's doing okay, and the cat, our marigold, has found the bathtub. It's cooler in the bathtub to just, without water, to just rest and sleep there during this heat wave. I'm so glad you made it, heat wave or not. St. Paul says we got to preach the gospel in season and out of season. Well, even though it's hot, and um, we got to keep going preaching the gospel. Not wait till the fair weather. That's what love is. We're not fair weather friends. We love in good weather and bad weather, in good times and in bad times. Oh, before I start my regular thing, I found a very unique walnut bowl. Now the walnut bowls are usually a, a trunk of a walnut tree cut and with the bark still on it and then hollowed out. I love walnut bowls. I give them away when I find them. Because I want every family to have a walnut bowl for their nuts. We had one when we were kids to crack nuts in the walnut bowl. They had the picks in the middle sticking out, and they had the nut crackers and the nuts. But this is a different kind of walnut bowl. It's actually made of walnuts. Walnuts sliced very thinly. Here, I'll show you. This is a walnut bowl. But look at all the crosses there. I was so happy. Not only do I want to show it to you as a wonderful product of human ingenuity, of human skill, and because each walnut, as you can see the shell of the walnut, but it's cut very sliced, very fine, and it's put together by glue. But one other thing I want you to see, the crosses. When they slice the walnut shell, there the crosses are. You see the crosses, reminding of our Lord's, of the greatest act of love that's ever been made, the act of his sacrifice on the cross. So that's a walnut bowl. It's a very unique, isn't it? It's all very smooth. It's very strong. It's put together from the walnut shell cut and all with many crosses, the different sizes and different shapes of crosses. Isn't it wonderful? Oh, um, speaking of Jesus on the cross, I saw last night two men who one was already executed yesterday or the day before, and the other one's going to be executed on Monday. And they were talking very matter of factly about how the injections, there's only one injection, it's not a cocktail of two other chemicals, or three. But anyway, they were talking so dispassionately, and I was hurting all the time when I was listening to it. They showed their pictures. I know they got a mom and dad. I know they have sisters and brothers. I know they have friends, and I know that they have feelings, and they're made to God's image and likeness. And yet they were talking about the uh, the injection, how they died, and then they had a gentleman come on who saw over 300 executions. He witnessed them. He was a journalist, and he talked very dispassionately about the whole thing too, and how this injection works, and how much it takes a little bit longer. I just cringed and listened to all of that, knowing that the humanity of these two men, even though they might have done horrible things, I don't know exactly. I think one was for murder. Then that's wrong. No one ever says that. But I felt so bad, and I thought of Jesus. He got capital punishment too. Of course he was innocent. And I thought of St. Dismas on the other side of Jesus on the cross on Calvary. He got capital punishment too. But he turned to Jesus and he said, "Remember me when you enter your kingdom." And Jesus said, "Yes, when this day you shall enter my kingdom." That was, I could say that's his last heist, his last theft. He stole heaven. But these were so I prayed for these men, and I prayed for the relatives, the mom and dad, the brothers and sisters of these men. Yes, I prayed for the victims too, that got lost a relative by the hand of these men or whatever. But our country seems so hard on criminals. Our Holy Father, when he was in Missouri visiting St. Louis, he pleaded to the governor for a man on death row, and the governor gave him a reprieve at life imprisonment without probation. But every time there is a one, the bishops try to change the this commute the sentence to life imprisonment without probation, because it's so barbaric, it's so inhuman, it's so insensitive. Jesus changed everything. It's not an eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth. They call that law of Telion. It's not a life for a life. It's dying. It's forgiving our brothers and sisters. It's dying. It's handing over our lives, our dying, our giving our lives for the good of others, not taking them away in our lives by our love, our compassion, our care, our forgiveness, just like Jesus would do. So I'm not trying to change the laws, but yes, there should be protection of society and all, but capital punishment, it's all those things that they said help society. It doesn't, and I don't want to go into all those arguments about deterrence. It doesn't work, and about the injustice of the system, that it's usually the poor that don't have good representation that get capital punishment. It's usually the minorities, that it's an unequal kind of system, and we know for a fact that there's been people who've been executed that weren't even guilty, and we're uncovering more and more of this through DNA. But I don't want to get into all those arguments because, but I want to get into it, the humanity of it all, and that our hearts change as a nation, not to be so callous and so vindictive and revengeful, even because we are asked to forgive our enemies and to pray for them, just like Jesus did. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. I just saw a wonderful man. He's Catholic, in his Catholic faith, that his wife and daughter were raped and killed. He himself was beat. It was with a bludgeon, a hammer or something, and he's got brain damage and everything. But he came publicly out and forgave the man who did this to his wife, horrible things to his wife and daughter, killed them and raped and murdered them, and to himself. And he forgave them publicly, and gave the murderer, the rapist, publicly, and it was so beautiful to see that. So I think that that we're just called to live like Christ and have compassion. Today in the gospel, the Pharisees were all bent out of shape because the apostles were taking grain on the Sabbath, taking it off the heads of the wheat and eating it. Well, that's harvesting, and harvesting is not the right thing to do on the Sabbath. But Jesus said it's not sacrifice that I want, it's compassion. because these guys were hungry. His apostles, he was defending them. You know, he not that he didn't do away with the law and the holiness of the Sabbath, but he wanted compassion over the law. The law is there. The compassion supersedes the law of the Sabbath rest. I am so happy to be with you people. I wasn't going to talk about that. I was just going to have an introduction about that. But I see my time is getting short. So so what the basic is, I just went without all the arguments about deterrence and all of that, protection of society, but the humanity of it, the leadership of our Holy Father and the bishops who are pleading with the countries that have capital punishment for many reasons, for many reasons, but the main reason is how Jesus would handle this. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. How Jesus was a victim of capital punishment. He was innocent, and he got put to death. How Dismas was a man, yes, it was a capital punishment. He turned it around just before he died. But how these two men who just died, I hope to meet them in heaven someday. And I plead with them to pray for their brothers and sisters on death row, to help them and help our society not be so hard on our criminals, to do away with this barbaric thing. Because I was thinking of him on the gurney, and everybody's watching through this glass thing, and it's just so inhuman. Because usually we're watching through a glass to see a newborn baby. We're watching through a glass to wait for the operating room for someone to be healed. We're by a bed to be and to bring life and to heal and to console and to hold the not to hurt anybody, even though they hurt us. So God bless you. May we just be evermore filled with the love and compassion of Christ, and if there's any hardness in our hearts, as that's the Holy Spirit, the oil of the Holy Spirit. That's why we use oil, the sign of the Holy Spirit, to soften those hearts with God's love for everyone, including those who hurt us. God bless you.